Welcome to the 16th season of the NitWits, a weekly roundtable discussion on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Our panel includes Neil Riddell of the Altoona Mirror, Mark Brennan of FightOnState.com, Jacob Cowker of WTAJ Sports, and a special guest NitWit each week. The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial Raymond James, an independent firm and firm foundation for your financial future. Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Doctors Howells, Reed, and Solani, orthodontics for children and adults. By Fiore True Value on 6th Avenue, Altoona. Just ask rental. Buy what you want, rent what you need. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your cleaning needs. By Your Rehab Choice, Health South Altoona. Ask for us by name. By Courtesy Motors of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By the Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By the Altoona Professional Hearing Aid Center, your hearing aid healthcare professional. By EasyToUse.com, your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By FightOnState.com, as close as you get to Penn State football without putting on a helmet. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday.
Hi there, a bit of a line change this week, more back to normal after some, travel meant that we had a different panel last week alongside our anchor, I guess, Neil Riddell. He's never missed. Mark Brennan, and I'm Jacob Cowker. We've got Jonas Stassi. Pleasure to have you along.
Yes.
Former Penn State wide receiver, so an honor to have you in the chair this week.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, let's start looking back at Akron.
Pressure's on you, Jake.
I know the pressure is on me. I'm like the new one still in this.
Well, Jamie was almost picked at the final score last week. The chair was the nitwit of the week.
Well, we'll have to see how that goes a little bit later on in the show. Let's look back at Akron, though, to start. And the defense, Penn State's defense, keeping the Zips out of the end zone. Impressions, Neil, on this
Well, I
performance?
think their front seven has been the most consistent part of the team so far this season. A lot of blitzing, a lot of depth being displayed on the defensive line, and while the offense didn't have it all together or sputtered in spots, I thought the defense was a real constant yesterday.
Yeah, their linebackers, I think, have performed better than anybody really expected. Everybody, I think, knew what you were going to get in Mike Hull, but Wortman and Bell have both really stepped up. And then when they go to that star package with the extra DB, they bring in Malik Golden there, and they've been doing some really good things. So the thing I liked about the Akron game is there were times when they gave up some yardage. They bent, but they didn't break. I know that's kind of cliche, but I think that's something you could really build on.
Yeah, I definitely think not breaking at all. Is it a concern, though, that you haven't seen as many big plays yet out of this group?
You're talking about from the defensive standpoint.
Yeah.
Not really. These guys, it's going to be hard to tell here because we're still early in the season. But I'd like to see how good Akron really is, how good UCF really is. I mean, those are sort of your gauges. You watch our defense, did they look solid this week? Yes. I mean, it really should have been 6 points. They held him out of the end zone. But I don't know. I guess his quarterback's pretty good. And they had good receivers. So, again, it's going to be a little bit difficult to gauge it until a little later in the season. But so far, so good. I like what they're doing schematically with the club. I like the personnel. How deep we are, I'm not sure. It looks like we're okay on at least the defensive line, possible linebackers because of the way they're moving guys in there in the star package, which you just referred to. So, again, it's interesting. Defense doing well. I think that's the least of the concern on the ball club.
Well, they've been so much more, and the players love talking about this after the game. They were all kind of smiling, and I know you were there, about how much more they're blitzing than they have in the past. And
like
that's
Madden, I think Jordan Lucas
yeah,
said.
well, Jordan
Madden.
Lucas had some pretty interesting things to say. Some of them probably won't make the air here. But, I mean, you could see them kind of brightening up when they talk about this aggressive scheme. And, I think that's important because, Joe, you hit on the potential lack of depth there.
Right.
And I do think that they're going to have to make plays. They haven't really done that yet. They're last in the Big Ten in turnovers right now. So they've played well overall, but there's still room for growth, and I think that's going to be where it is.
They haven't made an interception yet.
Yeah.
Right. No interceptions, just one fumble recovery so far this year. We do talk about making plays, and a guy that's been doing that is Christian Hackenberg on the offensive side of the ball. Another 300-plus yard game, his sixth of his career. It's ties a Penn State record. What do you see out of him against the Zips?
Well, I thought for a lot of the game, and I think we're going to begin to measure Christian against himself and against his great potential. But I thought for a lot of the game, he was more pedestrian than maybe he has been than we're used to. And he forced a couple. He had two pretty bad interceptions.
There's one of them right there,
that
yeah.
one I thought the defensive back did a pretty good job closing. The other one was just a bad throw. But, you know, some of this is the product of the lack of running game.
You're looking at a guy who, 14 games into his career is number 11 on their career passing chart. So when you mention we're going to start gauging him against himself, we are. Yeah. There were people on our message boards complaining that he didn't play a good game, where that game would have been kind of a career best for a lot of different people. Unfortunately for this team, they need him to be that good until they're able to get the running game going, and we saw it maybe a little bit against Akron. They're going to need him to step up and be even better. And when I say even better, I don't mean more yardage. I mean not making those mistakes that he's making. They only had 3 red zone appearances yesterday. 2 of them ended in Christian Hackenberg interceptions, and I think he's the first one to realize that he's got to tighten that up.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, and I think some of this was a little bit of a Dublin hangover.
Yeah.
And we had spoken a little bit about the travel back and them being a little bit down. You didn't see a whole lot of fire. You know, playing in front of our home crowd, normally you get a little bit more excitement, which would create the turnovers on the defensive side. But yeah, Christian, I mean, again, he's up against a little bit. He got that really, really young, you know, together offensive line, and then as far as lack of a solid running game. You know, it seems right now we're tricking teams, and you can only trick them for so long. And that, you know, we run that Wildcat. That seemed to be our best offensive run plays. Okay. But you can only do it so long. They start stacking the box, and then there you go. I mean, you're in that spot. You know, the other play, we ran a little bit of a trickery on the first touchdown. So I'm hoping that we get back into being able to get it downhill a little bit from him under center, or, you know, the read option. I just, you know, again, that puts him in a tough spot throwing the ball down the field because of the lack of that.
As a former player, you know, big favorite, noon kickoff coming off a game. What does the heat do to players in that situation?
Well, yeah, that's another good point. I mean, and as thin as we are, I mean, that's gonna play a toll towards the end of the game. You saw it really actually hurt Akron a little bit more. When we had that drive, they were reeling hard. Yep. So, you know, again, I think a lot of it had to do with that travel. And I mean, you made a great point. We were talking on the sidelines yesterday. That's a couple of days out from that, and it's you know, to get adjusted. And I think that had a lot to do with probably the lack of, you know, fire. Maybe they weren't quite as excited, just a little bit off, I think.
Well, I'm glad you brought up that run game a little bit as well. We're going to be taking a look at that when we come back. Just a lot of fans scratching their heads trying to figure out how to get that going. And you did bring up the Wildcat, and that's kind of a love it or hate it. We'll check in with each of us whether we're yay or nay on the Wildcat when we come back.
The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial Raymond James, an independent firm and firm foundation for your financial future. Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Doctors Howells, Reed, and Solani, orthodontics for children and adults. By Fiore True Value on 6th Avenue, Altoona. Just ask rental. Buy what you want, rent what you need.
I'm Sam Ficken from your Penn State Nittany Lions, and you're watching the NitWits.
Kickin' Fickin', bringing us back in. He uses his leg. We'll use some guys using their legs as well. The run game. 3.4 yards per carry yesterday. What's the deal right now with this run game?
Well, it hasn't settled in behind this line, and you know, and this is what we don't know about James Franklin. It used to be if Penn State couldn't run the ball, it was a crisis. And we don't know if that's necessarily the case yet. I mean, you would think to establish some tempo that they're eventually going to have to do it. But I think they go to these quick screen type of packages, and that's kind of their answer to a run game. But you'd like to think at some point you'd be able to give your defense more of a rest and control the pace of the clock, particularly against outmanned opponents. I think Lynch has been pretty good when he's gotten a chance.
Yeah, the thing is, Christian Hackenberg could have passed for 500 yards in that game. He could probably pass for that many yards in every game, but that is not going to win them games in the Big Ten, and that's why I think they're doing these things, trying to do something to get the running game going. I mean, the offensive line is not playing particularly well, in that aspect, and it's understandable because they're so young, there's so many new faces. So when people were complaining about the Wildcat, I don't quite get that. I think they're trying to build some confidence for this offensive line however they can possibly do it. And if it takes running the Wildcat to do it, I think that's what they have to do. That you have a 4-game stretch here, kind of to open the season, where you could probably get away with winning games while trying to build that running game. And I think it's important for them to establish that and get the O-line confidence.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, they have to run the ball. There's no question about it, or it's going to be a really long season in the meat of our schedule. When you look at it right now, again, we were talking about being a little bit more on the trickery side of it. I have no problem with the Wildcat. I think it can be effective. It gives you an extra blocker, but when they start loading the box up, and if you watch on any of the clips, it's always penetration. As soon as you get penetration, it changes the attack point for the running back. Then you're always going to have linebackers recover. And that's where you see from a lack of a good offensive line. And I don't want to sit there and beat up the offensive line, but we're very thin there, and we got 2 new guys on there from the defensive side of the ball. So until they're able to establish a run game, what these teams will do is, like in Ohio State or so on and so forth, they're going to have 4, they're going to rush 4, drop 7, and then we're going to be in a situation where he's not going to be able to throw the ball.
But shouldn't Hackenberg's presence be enough to open make them respect the run?
The thing is with that, it's tougher whenever they can stop the run with some front 4 penetration. And not because all these guys are good enough, whether it's Akron or Ohio State. You've got linebackers that are fast enough, and all they need to do is make some penetration. They get front 4 penetration, and then you're going to be in trouble. So regardless, that's easier to stop. A great run game makes a tremendous pass game. I mean, we all know that. So, you know, look what like we were talking about Oregon a little bit. I mean, they run the ball a lot. But when they throw it, they've got lanes. And, you know, I think they smashed down some of those lanes yesterday on Christian. That's what caused a couple picks.
Yeah, but also when you talk about Christian Hackenberg, really whenever they need yardage, he could throw a quick flare out to Hamilton or Geno Lewis or one of those things to one of the backs out of the back. They could, that stuff is there all the time. And my point is, I don't think you just want to rely on that because when you're playing Ohio State, it's going to be much more difficult with the speed they have at backer and the aggressive DBs that they have. The thing you mentioned about Lynch I think is interesting because to me, Bill Belton has been dancing a lot in that backfield. When Lynch gets in there, of the 3 backs, he seems to me to be the quickest to the hole. You know, that's really not Zwinak's kind of forte. Right. I mean, he's more of a power type guy, and I think that's what has kind of set Lynch apart so far is that he's so quick to the hole that he's not giving the defenders time to react.
They don't have much of a running game, and yet he's averaging almost 7 yards a carry.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. He gets in there a lot more quickly, and I think Franklin alluded to that after the game, that Belton has to do a better job of making quick decisions.
Yeah, you talked about that Bill is kind of dancing in the backfield, and yeah, you do see guys get into that backfield and kind of making him have to do that because there's so few times where you see this offensive line and they just kind of seem like they're trying to feel it out, still get a feel for each other. And there's so few times that you see them really act as one and get some push-up from them.
They're not working downhill as well, and I mean, that's lack of experience. I mean, those 2 guards, those are critical positions, but I couldn't agree more with Lynch. I know I was talking to some of the guys yesterday, and to me, he's more the complete package. You know, we're not in the war room every day. We don't know what's going on, whether or not he's picking all the blitzes up or so on and so forth, so we don't know exactly why he's not getting as much time. You know, I'm not a guy that's going to ever sit there and second-guess coaches like we've talked about before, and you said I should, but I don't. So, I mean, well, you can't. Neil,
I don't remember that.
Well, you know, Neil says, hey, listen, you got to be controversial. But here's what I'm saying. He's just
he
trying
never
to teach
second-guessed his dad as a coach.
Never, never. Or Joe. No, but here's the thing. You know, when you watch Lynch, I mean, he does. He's powerful, he's fast, and he does make quicker decisions. Just from the first couple games.
You got 2 fifth-year or fourth-year seniors, and you don't have a lot of senior leadership. So I'm sure there's every inclination to want to stick with these older guys because you need them to help lead the team.
One quick thing, I mean, you hit on it. You also want to keep that quarterback healthy, and I would bet both of those guys are better blockers than Lynch.
Yeah, well, they were picking those blitz. Yeah, sure, picking the blitz up. Yep.
All right. Well, even more on James Franklin's first game in Beaver Stadium when we get back. Look at maybe the atmosphere as well. A few changes with the Franklin era. We'll take a look at that when we come back.
The NitWits are brought to you by Monarch Cleaners for all your cleaning needs, by your rehab choice, Health South Altoona. Ask for us by name. By Courtesy Motors of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By the Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life.
Hi, I'm Harry Tomes, and this is my wife Beverly, and we are celebrating our 40th anniversary here in lovely Dublin, watching the Penn State victory today. And we watch the NitWits.
Of course they do. Dublin, Ireland. We're like world famous
Good
now
job
for
over
the
there, Jake.
NitWits.
Hey, congrats on the anniversary. That's
Yeah, that was awesome. A great
was nice.
great game. Great way for those two to spend their anniversary as well. And that was quite the atmosphere over there. A new atmosphere in Beaver Stadium yesterday with the James Franklin era beginning. The changes, subtle but different.
Well, why don't you start with the walk-in?
Yeah.
I was not there. I'm assuming you
Yeah,
were
I
when they
videoed-
walked in from Medler Park or closer to Bowlesburg. But
It's really not that far. They walk straight down Curtin Road. I was videotaping it from kind of up high in the stadium, and they're definitely onto something there. It's pretty cool. I think there are some things that they kind of need to tweak. It was really, really slow, almost in slow motion. But the players seemed to enjoy it, and the fans definitely enjoyed it. And I could see where for some of the bigger opponents on the schedule, that's going to be a pretty awesome thing. So I actually liked it. I don't know. It's still kind of keeping in line with the tradition, Joe, that all you guys love.
Right.
They're taking the buses over, the blue buses. They're just dropping them off a little bit farther away.
Right, and what I see with and you got to give Coach a lot of respect here with what he has to do. He's got to take a traditional program, okay, it's as much as any in the country, and find a way to get the 5-star recruit without going back on what our core values are. So you're in that situation where the name's on the back. That's fine. We get it. Not everybody's going to agree, but at the same time, are you willing to not have that on there and lose 2 or 3 defining players that could create a national championship for you? Okay, so the way I see the small changes, he's doing an excellent job right now, doing what the players want, but yet keeping the core values of the tradition that we have up there. And that's not always easy to do, because the easiest thing to do is say, hey, look at Oregon, they change the uniforms every day and that's what all the kids want. You can't do that if you're a school like us, a school like Alabama. You can't do that. You got to win on tradition, but yet you still got to land that 5-star guy. And to me, he's doing a really good job right now of figuring that balancing act out.
the new video boards is pretty spectacular. The replays and whatnot, and a lot more room for video. The only thing I think is I'd like to see some presence of down and distance. Everybody's used to that. If you're sitting in a one end zone, you got an older audience, to be able to see the whole way across the field in order to see how much, what ball yard line's on, and just the basic football information. You would like to think there's room for that.
Well,
somewhere.
we had some folks complaining on the message boards about the lack of not just down and distance, but also other stats throughout the game. And I would remind people that this was the first time that those are pretty complicated deals. And I would be surprised if you don't start seeing more and more as the crew who are handling them get used to it.
I actually talked with some of the guys who are behind that video board after the game. You know, we kind of ran into each other, and it was the thing that they're kind of working out those kinks. It's a whole new thing. And they said, you know, out-of-town scores, things like that. It was just one of those things that with week one, they know they want to get them. Right. It's a matter, like you said, how do you do it? You know,
well,
right away.
You want the things to work without it going out and everybody freaking out about it. And but I will say this: the quality of the images up there, whoa! I mean, it was just incredible. There were also some complaints that we got that they didn't probably show as many replays as people in the stadium would have liked. And I guess this is going to be one of those things where the people who are handling them are going to have to kind of gauge. Well, they're going to have to learn what people want.
Right.
Because I don't think everybody wants only the good replays.
Right.
I think they want to see some of the bad replays too.
I think that was a tendency. They didn't want to replay a couple of the negative plays.
But people want to see that, and I think they have to realize that. Listen, okay, you know, they want to see why Hack threw an interception, and I don't think Hackenberg cares. He'd probably be watching the thing too.
Yeah, there's a couple. I mean, it's just going to be like anything else. It's a process.
Yeah. Also, the '94 team. I thought that was a nice touch. Put a bow in the day. Joey, the fact that you were on that team, I'm sure you were a proud member.
Yes.
And what a star! What a bunch of stars.
Yeah, that was
from '94.
that was something else. I mean, it was really nice. Friday, we all got together at Coach had us out to practice, got to talk to he broke us down by positions. I mean, that's one of the things he's done really, really well is brought us in, not in as the family, but has everybody as family, current and past players. He's talking about the way these guys paved the way for what you do now. Guys like myself that had to block all the time for Kurt Enos and running the ball, and now these receivers can go ahead and catch and get a couple hundred yards a game. But it was just nice, and OJ was there. He wasn't on 94, but he was there. Freddie Scott was there, and we all got to talk to the receivers, and everyone's real welcome. We got another thing I want to make sure we point out is even though we're getting these kids from all over, and the quality of young men that these guys are still recruiting is outstanding. Social media is a little tough, and what about this kid and don't know about his grades? Let me tell you something. Every one of these guys that I've met, they're extremely respectful. They're great Penn Staters, the group of kids that they have recruited right now. Great kids. And that's really
to be fair, that goes back a couple staffs.
Absolutely.
It still goes back to Joe and Bill O'Brien.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And he's continuing that. I just want to make sure everybody understands that they are getting quality kids.
All right, well, we do have to look forward. Rutgers, the Big Ten opener. I know it's a little weird to say. We'll have the Big Ten opener predictions against Rutgers when we get back.
The NitWits are brought to you by the Altoona Professional Hearing Aid Center, your hearing aid healthcare professional. By EasyToUse.com, your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By FightOnState.com, as close as you get to Penn State football without putting on a helmet. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State game day every Friday.
Welcome back. It's a new era. Week 3, Big Ten plays already here, and they're playing Rutgers in the Big Ten opener.
Just strange.
I know, it's a whole new world.
Yep.
Well, we'll start with predictions. I guess as the Nitwit of the week, thanks to Jamie Baker,
right.
I should add. My first career Nitwit of the week is someone else makes the pick. I get to go first. I'm going to go Penn State 34, Rutgers 31.
Wow.
I think that the night game, I think, has the Knights a little more excited, but I just don't buy into their defense enough to stop Penn State.
I'm going to say 24-13 Penn State.
Okay.
I will go 27-21 Penn State. I think Penn State's going to be able to do some things offensively, and I look for some more turnovers from Penn State, causing some turnovers.
I like that pick. I'm going to go Penn State 31, Rutgers 13. Just like the way that our defense is playing, and from what I understand, they're not as good on the defensive side of the ball, so let's go State.
All right, well, there it is.
Hey, Joey, thanks for coming in.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thanks,
so
guys.
much.
Thanks.
It was a pleasure.
Yep. Thank you.
The two of you, I'll see you back here next week
We
with
will
our
be here.
mystery guest.
Wally Richardson.
See, you gave it away. Now it's
I
not a
want to
mystery
build the
anymore.
ratings.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week.
The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial Raymond James, an independent firm and firm foundation for your financial future. Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Doctors Howells, Reed, and Solani, orthodontics for children and adults. By Fiore True Value on 6th Avenue, Altoona. Just ask rental. Buy what you want, rent what you need. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your cleaning needs. By your rehab choice, Health South Altoona. Ask for us by name. By Courtesy Motors of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By the Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By the Altoona Professional Hearing Aid Center, your hearing aid healthcare professional. By EasyToUse.com, your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By FightOnState.com, as close as you get to Penn State football without putting on a helmet. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State game day every Friday. You can also see the NitWits on AltoonaMirror.com. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.